Desperate illegals try to escape from the United States into Mexico. Nazi soldiers patrol the border. Welcome to America. If Hitler had won World War II, what if JFK's assassin missed? What if the South won the Civil War? What if dinosaurs survived extinction? Our world would be a dramatically different place if history's turning points had turned another way. This is alternate history. Washington, D.C. Inauguration Day. Almost 70 years after the end of World War II.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
My fellow Americans, these are trying times for our nation. We have faced difficult times before, but perhaps none so difficult as now.
But this is a very different America than the one we know.
We know the source of America's troubles.
In this America, technology is used to intimidate and control.
We may be able to wipe them out.
Here, racism, hatred, and violence are considered patriotic virtues.
What I would envision would be a very different world from today.
They all conspired to bring this nation to its knees. The blacks, homosexuals, Jews.
Citizens are under constant surveillance by secret police.
Attacks from foreign influence.
Fascism is always dependent on repression. Secret police, some state control that tamps down any opposition.
I am proud to be your new Führer. God bless America, and may God bless the Reich.
Living under Nazi rule would be absolutely terrible. It'd be like the other countries that were living under the Soviet bloc. Then people act like it's all okay, but look deep into their eyes. They're absolutely miserable.
Many believe that Hitler could never have won World War II. But a few critical decisions could have changed history as we know it. D-Day, 1944. If it's successful, the Allied invasion of Normandy will mark the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. But instead, Hitler devastates the invading Allied forces with the world's first jet fighter. The Messerschmitt Me-262.
This jet aircraft could go about twice the speed as a normal Allied fighter plane. It had machine guns and a cannon in its nose.
It's historical fact that the Nazis were test flying the Me-262 jet a full 3 years before D-Day. Incredibly, Hitler and his generals didn't grasp the tactical importance of the Me-262 and never mass-produced it. But if they had...
With a fleet of Me-262s, not only would they be able to attack and annihilate the American Air Forces on D-Day, but they would also, once that air cover has been destroyed, they could then begin firing on the ships in the English Channel.
With unprecedented air superiority, Hitler turns the D-Day invasion into a celebrated Nazi victory. Next, Hitler's war machine sets its sights on the American homeland.
When the Russians entered the bunker at the end of World War II, they found a globe, and over the United States, the continent of the United States, was a swastika.
In this alternate history, the next leap in Hitler's plan is more frightening. June 1945, two Nazi U-boats surface off America's coast. Each tows a launch platform for the German V-2 rocket, the world's first ballistic missile. It's an undisputed fact that the Nazis tested submarine-launched long-range missiles in 1942, years before anyone else. In this alternate history, each V-2 rocket is armed with an atomic warhead. Boston become our Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This nightmare scenario could have actually played out. In fact, German and Austrian scientists were the first to discover nuclear fission in 1938. The Nazis started working on their atomic bomb 3 full years before America did in 1941. If the Allies had been defeated on D-Day, the Nazis had the time and resources needed to fully develop the world's first atomic weapons.
Had German scientists been given the funding and encouragement, there is a possibility that Nazi Germany would have beaten us to the discovery of the bomb. The shock value of a nuclear explosion would be so overwhelming, it almost creates a momentum that can't be stopped.
With 2 cities reduced to rubble and facing total annihilation, the United States unconditionally surrenders.
The Second World War is over.
Many Americans refuse to live under the brutality of Nazi rule.
The terms of surrender are signed.
Throughout the nation, the streets echo with a very different post-war boom. Some go into hiding and form resistance groups.
We would organize an armed militia. There is no doubt in my mind. I guarantee they would come together and fight against these people.
Others grudgingly accept defeat,
Our great leader swears to be merciful.
while some actually embrace the new totalitarian regime. We know there would be Nazi supporters because some Americans already supported Hitler. In 1939, 20,000 pro-Nazi Americans rallied at Madison Square Garden in New York City, just 2 years before America entered the war. Swastika banners shared the stage with American flags and a towering image of George Washington.
In Nazi-occupied United States, there are going to be people that are going to rally to the German banner.
Once firmly in power, Hitler's American Reich will set out to reshape the nation and the future. In this alternate history, Hitler has won World War II with technology the Germans were already developing in actual history, fighter jets and Nazi atomic bombs. Then, Hitler remakes America in his image. 70 years later, Nazi America has risen to become a global industrial superpower. But not because of free market capitalism. Nazi America's world supremacy is powered by slave labor.
Corporations would be doing very well under Nazi rule. Profit margins would soar. The labor force is a slave labor force, so you don't have to worry about health care or supporting your workers. You're going to work them till you kill them and make great products.
It is well documented that during World War II, the Nazis used over 11 million slave laborers in their factories. In this alternate history, The starved and beaten slave workers are America's undesirables. Jews, blacks, gays, political dissidents, anyone who doesn't fit Nazi ideals.
There would have had to have been some sort of solution for people that don't fit into our notion of what a fascist America would look like. We got this whole black population here. What do we do with these folks? We just get rid of them? What about these Latinos in the Southwest? Boy, they pick fruit really nicely. What do we do with them?
Get back to work! Take his spot.
For those who refuse to work or can't work, the Nazis have a solution. A final solution. You might think Americans would never accept this, but Americans would never know. Just as in Nazi Germany, death camps are the American Reich's most highly guarded secret. The truth about the government's population cleansing programs never gets out. What does get out is propaganda. After seizing power, Hitler takes control of all U.S. media, newspapers, books, radio, movies.
The Nazis recognized very early that using the power of sound and pictures together and delivering that to a mass audience could really be used to bend that audience to your will.
The post-war 40s turn into the booming 50s, and images reminiscent of a twisted satire become reality.
The Fuhrer returns to the American Reich for the 10th anniversary of Liberation Day. Hollywood comes out in full force to give our leader the red carpet treatment.
Professional sports also provides a perfect platform to promote the virtues of Nazism.
It's the 55 World Series, and the 66-year-old Fuhrer throws out the first ball.
Uniforms that should have been worn by the first black major leaguer, Jackie Robinson, and Jewish pitching sensation Sandy Koufax are instead filled by a pair of Aryan All-Stars from the Hitler Youth Baseball League.
The natural purity laws are not going to allow for anyone but a pure Aryan to pick up a baseball bat or throw a football. So you're looking at a great depletion of quality players in sports.
Nazi-run media is also used to broadcast the government's greatest scientific triumphs. Across the nation, crowds gather around TV sets to witness one giant leap for the right. It's an historical fact that the U.S. space program was built upon Nazi technology. The work of captured German rocket scientist Wernher von Braun was key to putting Americans on the moon. At its peak, Nazi Germany was the most technologically advanced nation in the world. In 1934, Nazis were using punch cards, the precursor to computers, to track the roundup of Jews. In this alternate history, the Nazis have continued their advances with a new tool, a government-controlled internet to spread propaganda and spy on citizens. But their high-tech invention may prove to be a potential problem.
In the long run, technology does tend to come down on the side of freedom.
USA! USA!
But can a growing resistance movement turn technology against America's Nazi occupiers? In this alternate history, the Nazis won World War II and rule America with fear and brutal force. For nearly 70 years, they have used technological advances to control and oppress the population. The government-controlled internet is the newest weapon of mass deception. Social media promotes Nazi values, and everything posted is under strict government scrutiny.
It's important to remember that any innovation or any technology can be weaponized. The Twitter and Facebooks of the world can be corrupted and used in a totalitarian way for surveillance or whatever.
Today, totalitarian governments throughout the world use social media technology for surveillance and to control their populations.
When we look at China, for example, they have tens of thousands of people whose job it is to monitor what people are doing on the internet.
But any regime hoping to use the internet for propaganda and coercion is playing with fire.
Propaganda techniques really work best with broadcast media, where you have a central point of control to broadcast a certain message.
It's morning.
Today, with the internet, it's so global, it's so multi-point, it's so participatory that no government today, even China, can really control the flow of information.
Recently, in places like Egypt, modern-day revolutions that began online ended up in the streets.
Ultimately, technology drives most of change in the world. And I think it's fairly easy to see the current revolutions happening in the Arab world as an inevitable consequence of bringing in these technologies.
In this same way, underground resistance groups inside Nazi America organize and begin to use social media sites to ignite a rebellion. Truth is a powerful weapon. Eyewitness accounts and viral videos of Nazi government atrocities spread like wildfire across the social networks.
It would be difficult to sustain a Nazi regime if ordinary people have access to tools of communication. Having the open internet, having freedom of speech empowered by technology, if it exists, people will use it, and they will use it to critique and organize to change a totalitarian government.
What do we want? Democracy! What do we want? Now! What do we want? Democracy!
After decades of brutal Nazi rule, Americans rise up to fight for their freedom. In the face of an uprising, Nazis do what Nazis have always done.
In Egypt, we didn't see violence committed by the army because it was the army not interested in firing on its own people. Nazis wouldn't have had that problem. Germans didn't have any problem killing their own people. They certainly wouldn't have had any problem killing Americans.
The massacre becomes a flashpoint for revolution. In this war, the American people are the insurgents.
Let's say I was part of the resistance. I would fight just like the Patriots did against the British. I know that we would set up ambushes. We would use our small tactics and what we were trained to do. You know, an insurgency really doesn't have to win. They just don't have to lose. I know for a fact that eventually any invading force that fought against the American resistance would have to literally just pack their stuff up and realize this is absolutely useless. We're not going to win here. We just need to go home, cut our losses, and we need to tell the American people we're sorry, and please don't come back over to our house and kill us. It wouldn't be an overnight victory. There's no doubt about that. But eventually, I know we'd win.
A simple twist of fate, a different decision at a critical moment, or a mere accident of chance. Each could change the course of world events and suddenly create a strange new world, a world of alternate history.
Next Wednesday, it's a battle of the butchers. As Russian Tsar Ivan the Terrible,
he will butcher anybody, even his own men,
takes on brutal Spanish explorer Hernan Cortez.
I love it. It's gonna be off the charts when it comes to who's gonna kill who.
Don't miss an all-new Deadliest Warrior next Wednesday at 10 on Spike.